Well, the people that you trust to drive your kids to school, they have been hard at work for weeks now. They have been cleaning and maintaining buses to get them ready for students. But Clark County school bus drivers say that their own health and safety right now has taken a backseat. And they tell 13 Chief Investigator Darcy Spears that while COVID-19 spreads, the district keeps quiet.
CCSD bus driver Peter Dixon started feeling ill back in March. He was tired and achy, but worried that if he called out sick, he'd get into trouble. So he pressed on.
I was taking some high school kids home, and I was getting hot, and my temperature was high, and I proceeded the route. I went to my middle junior high, picked up students, and I picked up my elementary kids. And I took them home.
Back at the Cheyenne bus yard, he got worse, frighteningly so.
It happened at work, and I couldn't make it from the bus to clock out, from clocking out to get into the car. I almost passed out at the yard. And I didn't want to pass out at the yard because, I just felt that I wanted to keep my job, for one, and for two, I just didn't want them to fire me. And I come too far in life.
Peter's symptoms got so bad he thought he was having a heart attack.
I just didn't want to die. It was to the point where I almost gave up hope. But I kept praying, asking God to please heal my body.
Medical records confirm Peter tested positive for COVID-19. Though hospitalized and fighting for his life, he remained concerned for the kids who'd been on his bus and the other drivers he'd had close contact with, like Cheryl Gorman.
And we were together the week prior, because as a bus driver, me and Peter, we hang out together. And then he calls me and tells me he was tested positive for COVID-19.
That call from Peter was the only call Cheryl got.
So for me, it was very alarming and concerning because I have an underlying health condition.
She didn't hear from the bus yard supervisor or from the district's transportation department. She was never even contacted by the Southern Nevada Health District.
I was stunned.
CCSD knew Peter had COVID. In this email with the subject line, "Here for you," Transportation Supervisor Shannon Evans acknowledged his medical situation and wrote, "Myself, along with your transportation family, care very much about you." Cheryl Gorman wonders where the care was for the other drivers.
When one of us gets sick, it affects the whole yard. Because if one's down, we're all afraid, God forbid, we can get it from being in contact.
The contact he had with people was so broad that nobody didn't even know he had. They didn't tell anyone.
Dave Gomez is president of Nevada Peace Alliance, a nonprofit advocacy group that represents support staff employees like bus drivers. He believes the district has a duty to inform drivers when one of them gets sick.
Instead, they rather just tape off buses with red tape and put a biohazard sign on the front window of a bus and tell people to stay back and not explain why.
These pictures were taken Friday, June 12th at the Cheyenne yard. Drivers were suspicious and scared, but hadn't been told anything. When we asked about the roped-off buses, the district said it did not have confirmation of a positive test and that this was done out of an abundance of caution. But 4 days after our inquiry on June 16th, this email went out to supervisors saying a member of the transportation department assigned to the Cheyenne bus yard has tested positive for COVID-19. That was the second case. Peter's was the first, but there was no email to anyone about that.
I did my due diligence, but I feel as though Clark County School District Transportation Department should have and could have done more.
13 Investigates has confirmed 5 transportation employees at 2 different bus yards have tested positive for COVID-19, starting with Peter in March at the Cheyenne yard. The most recent case at the same bus yard was confirmed July 2nd. We wanted to ask about drivers' concerns that they're being kept in the dark, but the school district refused our repeated requests for an on-camera interview. In an emailed statement, they said due to HIPAA privacy laws, they cannot comment on an employee's health, including a positive COVID-19 test. As for contact tracing, CCSD says it works with the health district to provide names and contact information for anyone who may have been in close contact with a COVID-positive employee, and that the health district handles the notification process.
That's an irresponsibility. They're negligent, and they're very negligent in their behavior and their demeanor. They're supposed to make sure that they inform their employees that someone has been exposed to this and not leave it up to the health district.
The health district admits it's not up to speed. In a statement, citing the large volume of recent cases and limited number of employees dedicated to contact tracing, a district spokesperson wrote, "We are experiencing a delay in the time needed for an investigator to directly communicate with new cases. We have been enhancing our staffing in recent weeks, but have not reached optimal capacity yet." Gomez says that makes it even more important for the school district to communicate directly with its employees.
The whole entire district in itself with admin are responsible to make sure that they protect these people, and they're not doing their job.
Drivers also claim they're working without enough personal protective equipment, saying they're forced to use dirty towels and shared supplies to clean buses.
When the district sends me an email and says all the drivers have PPE, they have everything they need, that's not true?
From what I understand, yes, it isn't true. And what I've seen, it isn't true.
The district said it is providing masks, gloves, and disinfectant to all employees. When we asked to see the PPE, they refused. In fact, they wouldn't even grant us access to any of the bus yards.
The negligence is extremely high on the district side and transportation because nobody's holding them accountable for these actions. And then we have to wonder what's going to happen when our kids go back to school.
Darcy Spears, 13 Investigates.